Was the summer of 2014, and for my son's bar mitzvah present, just like many Jewish parents, we wanted him to bond with the Holy Land. Oh, it worked perhaps too well. My husband had stayed back at the hotel, and our friends, my son and I, had just stopped in a pharmacy.
Run to the bomb shelter, sweetie, please hurry. I didn't hear the sirens at first, but the Israelis did. They're used to hearing these things. We ran to the back of the storeroom. It was a 12-foot by 24-foot windowless bomb shelter. My heart's pounding. Boom! Boom! I hear it and feel the percussion of the exploding bombs. I'm trying not to get sick. I look at my 13-year-old son and I think I'll never forgive myself if something happens to him.
That's an excerpt from a speech I gave to the Orange County Jewish Bar Association. It was the first, but not the last time we had to run to a bomb shelter. Our adventure and my transformation is also the subject of my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel. There is no chapter in a parenting book on what to do when a war starts and you're on a family vacation. Think touring extraordinary and sacred sites mixed with cowering in bomb shelters. I'm still trying to get over the Jewish guilt of taking my son to war for his bar mitzvah present. The impact of being human targets helped me understand the plight of Israelis living like this, and it also made me want to work on peace. How Israel is often described on the news is not what I'd seen with my own eyes. And I felt Palestinian parents also preferred their children playing safely in their backyards. The missiles exploded just near enough to blow apart my world as I knew it, forever changing me. And you'd never recognize my life today with what it was like then. I believe I found my life's purpose. Hello, I'm Penny St., and I'm the host of Peace with Penny. We're at the last of our series with the Hands of Peace, Part 4, and we wanted to show you the ugly situations each side faces, and yet this is a journey of hope. Our broadcast went a few minutes over, and we apologize, but we wanted to squeeze in as much as possible of our many hours of interviews. We thought our audience would appreciate hearing from the people who live this conflict, what it actually is like trying to go to school and work under these conditions. Many of the Hands of Peace community we spoke with are teens and young adults. Could you imagine having to raise your kids under such conditions? This is the generation who hopefully will fix this mess. Will they be incented to do so? As we sit back in our homes, often thousands of miles away, listening to what we think is the news, often presented with the bias of the particular network we choose to listen to, Israel is portrayed as this powerful bully who wants to kill Palestinians, and Palestinians are equated to terrorists who only want to kill Jews. What is the truth? There is so much more to the situation. We'll hear today what it's like to be a Jewish Israeli and escape the incessant Palestinian bombings by sleeping in bomb shelters for days. God bless Iron Dome and its Israeli inventors who blows up the missiles in the sky before they can land and do their damage. 20% of Israel's population are Palestinian, yet we'll hear how Palestinian citizens of Israel feel they are not treated equally with their fellow citizens and face tragic situations like house demolitions. What was it like living through the war in 2014, the heightened violence during May 2021, and even the current violence? And we'll also hear from American Jews and American Palestinians who have also attended Hands of Peace. These are high school students and alumni who've attended Hands of Peace. What did they learn? What did their perspectives add to our hope? We didn't want to leave you with just the obstacles faced that create significant issues that have to be addressed. You've often heard me say there still is hope for peace. Why? Because that's the only viable ending to this story. And even when people who've experienced horrific situations speak to one another, they realize it too. Israelis and Palestinians live next to each other, yet often they don't speak. Mostly they remain segregated in their own worlds, not even using the same language, Hebrew or Arabic. Even in mixed colleges, they remain to themselves and don't socialize. That's why programs like Hands of Peace are so essential. When they do meet and speak, it's sad to say, due to all of the experiences they've had and the propaganda that is promoted, they're surprised to find out that each is human with the same desires and goals to live safely and have their community's kids play safely in their backyards. They realize each wants the same goal, and they see the possibility to move forward toward a better future. You'll hear how these Israeli, Jewish, Palestinian, and American teens, regardless of their often opposing beliefs, have become friends, and even during extreme conflicts, cared enough about each other to reach out by phone and check on their friends, those people their own communities perceived as enemies. But you don't have to take my word for it. We'll hear from the folks who live it, change their opinions toward the other, and look toward more positive possibilities. But first, let's hear the ugly truth about the realities that far too often each lives. We'll start with some Jewish Israeli experiences telling us about what happened during 2014, May 2021, and even the past few months. By the way, for the teens we speak with, due to safety concerns, we won't show their faces, but you can hear their voices filled with the emotions of their experiences. Living with this conflict causes fear and emotional pain that no one should have to live with. Let's begin with Amalia, a summer 2022 Jewish Israeli Hands of Peace high school student who attended Hands of Peace for the first time. Amalia just spent 3 weeks of summer 2022 as a first year hand for Hands of Peace at their Chicago camp. She is a Jewish Israeli participant. During May or in 2014, did you have to go to bomb shelters?
Yeah, we have bomb shelters everywhere. And in 2013, it was the first time when I actually realized what's going on. And I remember that I went to school. It was in the summer, so it was a summer camp in school.
Right.
And every 2 hours we went to the bomb shelter. And now in May, it was so scary because my grandmother stayed with us because we didn't want her to be alone, and it was scary to be on the street. And I mean, it wasn't just scary about the bombs. It was scary because it was a terrorist wave, and I felt unsafe everywhere. I mean,
what did you think could happen?
I don't know. I mean, there was I always heard about terrorist attacks in everywhere, in all over the country. And I remember that I wasn't in Tel Aviv, but there was a terrorist attack in Tel Aviv, and all my friends live there. And so I just called them hysterically. I was like, "Are you safe? Are you home? What's going on?" And
what kind of terrorist attack?
There was a shooting, a massive shooting.
Yeah, the whole 2014, that's what got me into all this, because I had taken my son there. Typical Jewish American parents, we want our kids to bond with Israel. So what do you get him for a bar mitzvah present? You take him to Israel. But our trip, literally, we were on the plane and the missiles started. And so we went there, and 3 weeks before we left, they kidnapped the teenagers, and 2 days before we left, they found them dead. And I was writing to our rabbi, should we go, should we stay? And he said, oh, I feel safer going to Israel than I do to downtown LA. And so literally, here 4th of July is our Independence Day.
Yeah.
And we celebrate with fireworks, and literally we were on 4th of July, we were on the plane, but instead of fireworks, real missiles were going where we were going. And but the impact on me made me want to work on peace. And so it's been 8 years now, and that's what I do. When I was there, I was sending out detailed emails if something, God forbid, should happen, what had happened. And then people back home would know. I have an MBA from probably before you were born. And one of my friends that I went to school with was receiving the emails, and she said, "Oh, you've got to write a book." So when I came home, I thought about it, and I said, "Yeah, I do." Because I was really disgusted with what I heard on the news compared to what I knew. Because Israel is portrayed as this horrible bully that all they want to do is kill Palestinians. And when I was there, I knew that wasn't true, but they do want to defend themselves. And so I wrote the book and I became a speaker. And then I also have a spiritual background where you probably haven't heard of a woman called Jean Houston, and she's considered like the mother of human potential. And I had my first class with her about a month before we left for Israel, and it was called Finding Your Life's Purpose. And other than having my son, I believe I did.
Wow.
And I've had 9 classes with her now. And it was actually her idea for me to do the podcast. She said, writing a book and becoming a speaker is one thing, but podcasts are really popular now. I said, "You're right." So now it's a year and a half later, and I am loving it. I get to speak to people like you and all kinds of people who work on peace. And even when I was writing my book and writing articles and stuff like that, I would interview people and then write about it. Now I do that too, and and speak to them as well. So I love it. I really love it.
Every time I just think to myself, stop it. I mean, every year there's more soldiers that
I agree with you. I find myself a lot of times I just want to shout, "Stop!"
yeah.
Stop the violence. Learn to speak with I mean, really, after speaking to peace organization after peace organization, the answer is simple. Speak to each other. There's so many assumptions about the other, that so many people that I spoke to at Hands of Peace, the different teens seem surprised to learn that the other side's human. It's sad. It's really sad. And yet it's hopeful in that it is a simple solution if people would do it. Next, let's speak with Niv Segal Chazak. Niv Segal Chazak participated in the Hands of Peace summer program as a hand in 2013 and as an XL in 2014. This past summer, she acted as the Jewish Israeli chaperone in San Diego. Niv earned the Tel Aviv County Outstanding Volunteer Prize for Leadership. She has served on the Jewish Arab Parliament, joined a youth movement called Hashomer Hatzair, and initiated numerous peace projects. Niv has been the recipient of 2 Hands of Peace scholarships and is currently studying social work at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Niv also has served her country, working with troubled teens that come from broken homes or have been kicked out of school. Her job is to prepare them with the tools they need to reach their fullest potential as they enter adulthood. She also spent a gap year working to preserve nature in the country. She currently works with the elderly who we say have made Aliyah or moved to Israel. It's difficult to navigate a new system for medical issues, especially during COVID. Apply for social services and set up your banking when you don't speak Hebrew very well. Besides, how lonely must they be leaving their relatives behind? At her young age, she has already shown her compassion, dedication, and success as a peace activist. Mazel tov. Welcome, Niv.
Hi.
So today you're 25, correct? In 2014, there was the war that really impacted my life, changed my entire life. And where were you during the war?
I was actually at the Excel program in Chicago. Just a few days after we landed, it started. And to say the least, it caused a lot of commotion around. You know, in a way, when you are in the States, it's a little bit easier because you feel not only physically that the conflict is far away from you, but a little bit like emotionally. That's how you can a little bit focus more about how you feel, because it's not like you're in your home and it's happening.
Yeah,
And
that's why
suddenly,
that's why I call my book Blasted from Complacency, a journey from terror to transformation in Israel. You're absolutely right. I've always cared about Israel, but when you're hiding in bomb shelters and missiles are going off overhead and you can feel the percussion on your skin, it really gets your attention. Did you have to run to bomb shelters? The missiles are during 2014.
yeah.
Were there anything where you were at? Were the sirens going off? Did you have to go to the bomb shelters? And
When we came back from Hands of Peace, while I was in the camp, we had this. We until the very last day, we didn't know if we're coming back home or not because they closed Ben Gurion Airport. We were
mm,
like, we thought we might stay there for another week or a month. We had no idea. My host family from back then were like, great, we're signing you up for a high school here. You're gonna stay. For the kids
yes.
to talk about the conflict, and then when they're not at home, but then the conflict is happening back at home with their family and their friends, it
How
caused a lot of
scary.
emotions. A lot of the kids, the younger ones, we the excels felt like we understood a little bit better because we've been through one summer program. We
Mm-hmm.
knew that this is gonna cause a lot of confusion, but the younger ones, the first year summer programmers, they were a little taken back by it. I remember that. It was very scary, and it made it a little bit harder for people to see the other side, because in times of war, you're very, very focused about what's going on your side.
Plus, their relatives their safety's at risk. And so I would imagine become very defensive. And that must have been hard to try to have dialogue.
It was.
Were you able to?
We couldn't ignore it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It was happening, and we the excels as sort of like the more mature older brothers for the participants, we had to know how to deal with it and how
Mm-hmm.
to help them access all these tools that Hands of Peace are trying to teach you, how to
Mm-hmm.
reflect, how to observe, how to listen, and be like, we know that the emotions are very, very high right now. You're feeling everything in every fiber of your body, but let's just take a moment and sit down and try to see beyond that, trying to see the bigger picture. It was hard. It was really hard.
So you get back to Israel and then you're running to bomb shelters, I take it, on occasion.
It was less than 24 hours after I came back. It was the first, I remember even it was the first night I came
Mhm.
back. We came back in afternoon, and then very early in the morning, like 4, 5 a.m., I had an alarm and I was awake because I was jet lagging. And I remember feeling emotionally and physically exhausted, feeling like I don't have the emotions to deal with this right now because I just went through this very intensive program. And now I have suddenly focused on something so big and being worried about all my friends and all my family and running and being always, we couldn't put headphones, we couldn't take long showers. We always had to be like with flip-flops or like shoes very close lying around, and always have our phones in our pockets, keys, a wallet, everything, just so we'd have a quick escape back to the shelter.
Where is the shelter for you?
Our shelter, each one of our buildings in our neighborhoods has a shelter at the very bottom of the building. So all the
Mm-hmm.
neighbors just go down from all the floors and they go in and they connect. It's like a tunnel that connects between two buildings. So you would also meet the neighbors from the building next to you. It was a very small, cramped places, very, very tiny. And we're talking about something like 20 families are supposed to be in there. Not
Had you
ideal at all.
experienced that before?
We have not as much as in 2014, but we have actually the first time that I ever experienced it within pillar of smoke. That's how I think they called that operation back then. It was in
Mm,
2012. The
mm,
first time I've ever heard the siren go on, I was alone
mm,
with my brother. We were
mm.
alone, just the two of us, and I was just a teenage girl, and he was my younger brother. I remember feeling this incredible anger that somebody's trying to hurt my brother. I remember just, he was like going, we had like a backpack filled with like groceries and stuff like that. He ran to get it in the house. I was like, no, leave it there. We have to go down now. And I remember thinking that I want to hurt everybody who's trying to hurt my brother right now.
Boy,
So
I can
angry.
so relate to you. We were in Jerusalem, and they kept telling us, don't worry, they haven't bombed Jerusalem in 8 years. You'll be fine. Or wherever we'd go, they'd say, don't worry, the missiles don't go that far. And then they did. And the first time for us also, my husband had gone back to the hotel, and I was with some friends and their kids. And we walked into a pharmacy, and the sirens went off, and the pharmacist slammed the front door and said, started shouting, run to the bomb shelter. And I'm looking at my son and seeing the terror in his eyes. And your first reaction is you want to retaliate, what the heck? But then by the time I got home, I got a hold of myself and realized, I can't even step on a bug without feeling guilty. And so I thought, Palestinian parents have to want their kids to be able to play safely in their backyards too. And so that started me on my journey. This whole thing started then. So it's very interesting to hear you and how you had very similar feelings at that time. Now, you had already met, and I assume made some Palestinian friends between your two cohorts that you attended on dialogue. During this time, did you stay in contact with them at all?
I did. I had this one, I guess, BFF, one of the boys. We're still in touch till this day. And he was also one of the very few who kept in touch with me while I was doing a military service. We were best friends back at the camp, and we kept in touch afterwards, because he, after our second program, he moved to the US to do his last high school year there, and then he just stayed. So I didn't see him as much, but we kept texting and updating and how's it going on. And just before I went to the summer program, I reached out to him again. I was like, this reminds me of us, seeing all the kids, and like, how you doing and what's going on with you, and when are you gonna come visit again?
So during the war, though, what was his attitude?
We were all very worried about each other, which is, in my perspective, one of the magical things that happen in Hands of Peace. Because when a war happens, everybody sort of stick to their side. Everybody stick to what they know and what they tell them. And then after Hands of Peace, everybody was so worried about each other. Everybody reached out. Everybody asked, are you okay? Is your family okay? Do you need help? Do you want me to call you? I remember that as being like one of the best supports that I've ever gotten. And because we were all going through the same sort of, I guess, process. And even though there was a whole war going out there, we still cared. We still remembered what Hands of Peace gave us. That was amazing.
Yeah, that's terrific. Did you stay away from discussing the war?
When? Like
during that time, other than how the other person was? Did anyone say, yeah, but why are you sending missiles on either side? Or did you talk about it at all?
We talked about it, but thanks to, like, we were at this point when we knew we're not accusing one another. We're at this point of like, I don't know what you heard, but in my area, they sent like 50 missiles, and we had to run every 30 minutes down to the bomb shelter. They would tell me what's going on their side, and there wasn't like a feeling of accusation. You're to blame for it. You did this. It was a lot of feeling like, okay, let's try and make sense out of something that is insane together.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing how just having the ability to speak to one another changes the perspective? I mean, the isolation seems to be the real culprit in so much of this,
You know,
when you don't get to speak to one another.
after Hands of Peace, we had a few seminars. We have them a few times a year,
Hmm.
and they take us to places, and they took us to a few mixed schools, which was the first
Hmm.
time I ever got to see a mixed schools of both
Hmm.
Palestinian and Israelis, and Neve Shalom, if you heard about it, which is
Yes.
also a place. And that was, for me, I was like, I had no idea this existed. If I
Mm.
knew, I would have signed up
Yeah.
and went a long, long time ago. I mean,
Yeah.
it's true, we don't communicate, and it's just so weird. Tel Aviv and Yafo are so close,
Hmm.
and it's just incredible how far prospectively they are.
Yes. True. So in the May, August violence or recently, did that impact you personally?
You mean when they had a lot of the stabbings and everything?
Yeah, when bombs
Ye-
and all that in May last year.
Last year, not this year.
And
I
then
have
this year they just recently they had some bombings.
recently they had a few bombings, but a few months ago we had a lot of stabbing cases that
Hmm.
Palestinians attacked Israeli citizens or
Right.
like soldiers in the streets,
Hmm.
or we had shootings. I
Mm.
think that we had a few shootings in Hadera, Ramat Gan, Jerusalem too. No, not in Jerusalem, but I think it was an attempt. But anyway, it caused me a lot of anxiety, I have to say. I'm a full-time student,
Yeah.
and it caused me to shut down completely.
Shut down in what regard?
I was scared to go out. I was
Mm.
really scared to go out. I didn't go home to see my parents for like for a month or something because I was so scared of going on public transportation.
So do you
Really
think you've
scared
got
me.
PTSD?
I don't think so. I definitely have a lot of concerns until this day. Whenever I hear like a loud noise, I think it's a siren, and I immediately start to clutch up and like
Hmm.
I don't think I have PTSD because I'm very, very much aware what's going on around me. Having anxiety in Israel is very, very common because
Yeah.
of that. It's very, very common.
Unfortunately.
A lot of people have panic attacks. A lot. I wasn't the only one. I remember I talked to a friend of mine. We got together during that time, and she was like, "I have to confess, I had a panic attack yesterday because I needed to go to the mail office to get something," and I was like, "I had one too just 2 days ago." And we sat down, we talked about it, and
What a shame
yeah,
that to have to live like that. Let's speak with Emily Kenward now. She's also an alumna for Hands of Peace, but she is American and has quite a mixed family. We've included her experiences because after attending Hands of Peace, she also lived in Israel while obtaining her master's in conflict resolution. And it happened to be during what was also the May 2021 increased violence. There is nothing like learning about conflict resolution while living through a real violent conflict. That was definitely more of an education than she had applied for. What's your religion?
That is a complicated question. It's
Mm.
actually part of how I got, I guess, started with Hands of Peace. My mom is Jewish, my dad is Catholic, and then I actually have an uncle who converted to Islam when he was in college. So I grew,
Wow.
yeah, so I grew up with my own sort of
Hands of Peace.
interfaith. Yeah, my own sort of interfaith, a bit of an introduction, I guess, to dialogue, more of an informal sense. We would celebrate Christmaka and, spring the Hanukkah and, celebrate all together. I did grow up predominantly Jewish. I would say now I'm more spiritual.
You went to college for your master's, I believe, in Israel. Uh, how long were you there?
Yeah, so I was there for a little over a year. It was from August 2020 until September 2021.
Mm.
Yeah, so really the height of COVID and escalation in the region for sure.
Yeah.
So interesting time to be there.
Yeah. So did the escalation in May impact you personally?
Yeah, it did. I was living in Tel Aviv at the time, and so this was kind of, I think, the first time in a while where rockets actually were able to reach Tel Aviv. So our classes were in person. We went fully remote for those, 14, 15 days. And I did have to go into the bomb shelter several times throughout the course of those 2 weeks. But it really was interesting. It impacted a lot of the discussions that we were having because I was studying conflict resolution and
Yeah.
mediation. And so really having that firsthand
So
experience
did
in
you time this? Talk
I know, you
about
would think
being
so. It worked.
exactly, geez. Or did
Yeah.
the school? I mean, really?
It was a good case study. Added to the discussion, definitely. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely interesting too, since I was already in contact with a lot of my Hands of Peace friends and alumni. And so to be able to experience that and like check in with each other, I definitely had a support system while I was there. So that was nice. And I've had people who I might not have seen or talked to since 2015 reach out to
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
That was especially true in May 2021.
Really? That's
Yeah,
interesting. Why was that?
people who, I don't, it's just the community that gets built. You go through this really intense experience, especially with dialogue.
Mhm.
Um, and 3 weeks seems like a lot of time, and it never is.
Mhm.
And so we all are connected, I think, by this idea that we've all been through Hands of Peace. And so people who I haven't even really talked to that constant or
Mhm.
consistently since
Mhm.
2015 reached out to me because they knew that I was living in Tel Aviv at the time, just to make sure I was okay.
Mhm.
And I did the same to them. And so I think, yeah, just that community aspect um, really just, yeah, kept me in touch with a lot of different people.
That's beautiful. Now we're going to get into the Palestinian perspective. We'll be speaking with two Palestinian citizens of Israel who, even though they are citizens of Israel with voting rights and services from Israel, like all Israeli citizens, they consider Israel to be an occupying force that treats them unfairly. These are teens. Basma is a Muslim and almost 18, and Yara is Christian and almost 16. Not being used to speaking with folks from this perspective, as is common with peace work, I had difficulty understanding at times, and it was hard to hear their perspectives. Oy. One of the 2022 teen hands who met in San Diego this past summer that we'll be speaking with is Basma. She is a Palestinian citizen of Israel. Welcome, Basma.
Hello,
Where do you live?
in Nadar. It's close to Haifa. It's a village. Yeah.
It's a village, so is it like a Palestinian village?
No, it is under the Israeli occupation,
Mm.
so it's considered as an Israeli village.
So you have Palestinians and Jewish Israelis living together?
No, we don't have Jewish Israelis in my village. We are only Arabs. But we do have settlements all around us.
So you live in the West Bank?
No, I live under the Israeli occupation.
Okay, so you say you live under the Israeli occupation, but you're living within Israel.
Yes, it is. As a Palestinian, as Palestinians, we don't like to say we live in Israel because we believe it's the Palestinian land, it's Palestine. So we don't
I
say we
see.
live in Israel.
I
So do
see.
we say we live under the Israeli occupation because the Israeli occupation it's what rules our villages, our cities, and stuff like that. And because we hold the Israeli passports and we are considered Israeli citizens, we say that we live under the Israeli occupation.
Ah, I understand. Do you have relatives who live in the West Bank
Yes, I do.
and in Gaza?
I don't know, but I don't think so.
Do you go visit them in the West Bank?
Yes. from times to times. I can go, yet they can't come. It's really hard for them to come here. The last time I remember one of them coming here is I was 5 years old. That's like 13 years.
Now, I think I know this answer, but I'd love to hear it. Are you planning on going into the Israeli army?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Was the Israeli-Palestinian conflict discussed in your home?
Yes, it was always discussed in my home. Actually, we live it. My house was demolished by
Oy.
the Israeli occupation.
Because of why?
Because they say that we can't build in our land.
Mm,
So we have a lot of houses that my house is outside the village and that we can't build outside the village. But
mm,
my house is 2 meters close to the other house that is inside the village. So
mm.
it's technically inside but outside the village. So the Israeli occupation decided that they want to demolish it. And it was built on our land, the land that we had from my grandpa. So it's our own private land. And after it being built, they decided to demolish it. It's actually, how do I say that? It's something that they do a lot for the Palestinian citizen of Israel. So they get them to go outside of the country and never come back. It's like a policy that they do, or just a minute. How do I say it? It's something that the Israeli occupation does. So it makes our lives harder to have homes, to build the life here, to do a lot of things. So we do, the Palestinian citizen of Israel, we do face a lot of racism, a lot of stuff, and a lot of conflict in our daily life. I might say that one of the reasons that I'm staying here, it's because I don't want to give up my land. But I do not feel welcomed at all. I don't feel like a real citizen. If we are gonna talk about being a citizen here, I don't feel like it. I'm not actually treated like a normal citizen. I don't have all my rights,
Such as what?
such as a lot of things. Schools. I was saying that the building of my school was bad, so they decided to demolish it, right? If you
Yes.
go to another Israeli or Jewish schools, it's not like this. They have more money than us. The education there, it's way more stronger than the education we get here. Although we are under the same government, we are also considered Israelis. But I do consider myself as a Palestinian. So, but for the government, we are Israelis, but we are not treated the same. A lot of things we don't get here, and like for example, as Arabs, we don't get them. We don't get our rights as the other Israelis and the other Jewish people get. And when I say Jewish people, I mean by Israelis, and because I know not every Jewish is an Israeli, so yeah.
So what do you think about Jews?
I'm not against Jews. Judaism is a religion. It's far away from Zionism, and it's far away from Israel, actually. If I look at Jews, I see as a Jewish, like if I look at a Jewish person, I see him as a person who is having a different faith than me, a different religion that he likes to practice. And I am really okay with that, and I don't have anything against Judaism or Jewish people. So a lot of people think when we say Jewish person, or Judaism or anything, they always say, "Oh, Israel," and I do understand that because most of the Israelis, they are Jewish people. But not all Jewish are Israelis. So that's what I think of Judaism.
That's true. However, I'm Jewish, and in our religion, being in Israel is always part of that. We're raised that is our homeland, and that our religion is very much connected to Israel, whether you're there or you're not. I understand it's very unfortunate what happened with the establishment of the state, but for, centuries and in the biblical times and stuff, it was our homeland, and probably similar to how you feel as far as your people, getting kicked out or whatever. We were kicked out repeatedly from our land. In the meantime, also, you live there, or your people live there, and unfortunately this establishment of the state cause problems for that.
Yes,
But we are
governments.
Yeah, but I would say I love Israel, and I consider it the Jewish homeland, but I also understand, yeah, but your people also were living there, and to me it's just like, come on, folks, this retaliation and back and forth, no one's going away, you know? So, and that may not be music to your ears, but the bottom line is that's reality. And so both sides have to learn to live together. But we're not going to solve this today. I just wanted to clarify for you. I wasn't sure whether or not you knew that. The whole West Bank situation, and you consider yourself being occupied because, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the land, from what you said, what do you think should happen? All the land of Israel. If it were up to you, if you could wave a magic wand, what would happen?
I was raised as a Palestinian,
Mm-hmm.
and when I got to the real world, when I saw what was happening in 2014, 2015,
Mm-hmm.
in May 2021, um, the last month, what happened in Gaza.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but I could never see this as Israel or something like that. I would like it to be the Palestinian land. I would like it to be called Palestine again, because every martyr, or every person, every child, every woman that was killed when Gaza was being bombed and things like that, when the West Bank is a large open prison, it's also the same way Gaza is also a large open prison that has 2 million people in it. So being locked in an open prison, seeing my brothers and sisters, my people there, the Christian Palestinian, the Muslim Palestinians, and even the ones who are having different faith than Christianity or Islam, we see each other as Palestinians and Palestinians only. Leave the religions away. We just want our rights, our land. We just want to live in peace for once. So we would like to see it as Palestine. We would like to see our families that are immigrants that are in Lebanon, and in Lebanon, Syria, Canada, a lot of other places, in Jordan. We would like to be reunited with them here in our land, because we see it as our rights, because we lived here, we were born here, our grandparents, they were born here, our roots is here. So we would like to see it as our country. We would like to have our land back. And by having our land back, we've never said that we don't want any Jews with us or anything like this. Because we lived, if we look back at old times, we lived here as Christians, Muslims, and Jews, all in the same land.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was called Palestine then. So we would like it to see as Palestine again.
When they send rockets from Gaza, what do you think about that?
Well, if you know, there's elections soon. Every time there's elections, there's bombings between Gaza and Israel. That's all the time that is up. That is just a simple things that the government does. So they would tell the people that live here to the Israelis that this is the strong prime minister. This should be the prime minister because we can bomb Gaza, we can protect Israel or something like this. So every time there's clashes, there's anything, it's every time when there is elections. So a lot of things that are complicated. And if we look back to when Gaza sent bombs to Israel, because Biden was here and they didn't want him to be here. I don't really remember, but Biden did say something before he was coming here to Israel. He said, "You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist," and I am a proudly Zionist. That's what Joe Biden said. So that did upset all the Palestinians. And if we look, Gaza is the only Gaza has its bombs and its rockets because they make them. But if we look at Palestine or at the Palestinian government, they're not allowed to have airplanes. They're not allowed to have airports. They don't have any type of weapons and something like that to protect themselves. So that is the main reason why Gaza bombed Israel, and that does not happen all the time.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the reason for Gaza to bomb Israel is because why?
It was because Joe Biden was here. They wanted to for Joe Biden to leave Palestine. Joe Biden, after coming to Israel,
Because he
there
said he was a Zionist?
Yeah, something like that. That's what I remember.
Do you agree with that?
Or being a Zionist?
No. Do you agree that because someone says that they're a Zionist, that they should send missiles?
Not really. But if we look at who says that you should be a Zionist, it's different. Because if you look at Joe Biden has a lot of power in his hand. He rules one of the greatest countries in the world, which is the USA. And the USA sends more than $3 billion a year just for the Israeli occupation forces, or which its name is actually the IDF, but we call it the IOF. So he gives permission to Israel to bomb Gaza. He gives permission to Israel to do a lot of war crimes and a lot of things. And for him to say that he's a Zionist and you should be a Zionist and you shouldn't be a Jew to be a Zionist, that has a lot of impacts on people. So it is a really complicated situation.
That's true.
I don't know what to say about that, but I don't think that saying this or bombing or anything would actually solve the situation. But if we look at why every time Gaza bombs, or it's because it was being attacked, or because they've been living in an open prison.
Okay, so but their missiles come first. So you're saying, are you saying that's justified because you consider that they live in an open prison? So it's okay to send missiles.
If we look at every time Gaza was being bombed, it's not true that every time they send the missiles first. It's always Israel who starts the bombing.
So that's a point of contention, although this last time they did. That's true. But they had supposedly seen that there were terrorist plots. But
and if we look at May 2021.
Yeah.
The bombing starts. Yes, Gaza sent a missile, but Gaza sent it because they wanted to protect Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they wanted, and Sheikh Jarrah, because it was Ramadan, and every time Ramadan or Eid comes, Israel would, the IOF would start to attack the prayers at the mosque. I mean, they are just praying, and our holy mosque.
Really?
Why would you? Yes, that's every time. Every Friday, a lot of settlers would go inside the mosque and they would start fighting the people that are praying inside the mosque, inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So it's they really hit the soft spot for Palestinians. And as a Palestinian, even if I'm not a Muslim, the Al-Aqsa Mosque is really holy for us.
Oh,
It's
yes.
not something that you can just come into and bomb. And they threw a lot of bombs inside the mosque. They would just kick the prayers there. They would do a lot of horrible things. They would shoot the prayers, and things like that. This happens a lot, and this is one of the main reasons in May 2021 why Gaza sent a missile to Israel. But if we look at it, Israel has the Iron Dome, and the Iron Dome always protected Israel. So even the missiles from Gaza, they can't enter Israel because of the Iron Dome. So there's no real damage was here in Israel. And if we look at Gaza, they don't have anything. They don't really have an army. They don't have real weapons that they can fight in. They don't have real missiles. The missiles that they make, that they send to Israel, they're just a DIY missiles, nothing else. But if we look at it, Israel always, when they send missiles, it always bombs schools, it bombs houses, it bombs places that there's a lot of population in it in Gaza. So they would kill a lot of children, a lot of women, a lot of innocent people.
Have you never heard that Israel sends text before they bomb? They call the houses.
Yes, I did
They
hear this.
drop leaflets and tell people that they're gonna bomb at whatever time and please leave. Do you ever hear that?
It happened twice, I guess. Yes, I did hear that. It happened in May 2021, where they send a text, "We are bombing this building in 2 minutes." People couldn't get their stuff in 2 minutes, actually. But
So they only gave you 2 minutes?
Yeah, they only give 2 minutes. And the last month, they told Egypt that they were bombing Gaza. They were sending a missile, so they wanted to kill a terrorist or something like this. I really forgot his name, sorry.
Okay.
So Egypt would tell Gaza that this is a one-time thing, but they didn't tell Gaza. So Gaza did answer back with missiles, and then the missiles from Israel to Gaza, they were going back and forth all the time, and they were nonstop, and a lot of kids, and a lot of children were killed. And actually, they have a lot of spies for Israel in Gaza. That's how they say that. So they would know where that terrorist actually is. But why bombing him when he is in a school or in a place that has a lot of civilians, that has a lot of population, and kill children that were there?
How do you feel about when they send missiles or uh, the drive-by shootings or the car rammings? What do you think about the Palestinians who do that?
With the Palestinians from the West Bank, you mean?
The
About
West
the things
Bank,
that,
Gaza, who,
okay.
basically folks
Are
who
you talking
are,
about what happened in Tel Aviv and Beersheba?
I mean, it happens all the time. It
Yeah.
happens quite often. What do I've heard obviously many Palestinians consider them martyrs, but do you feel that way, or do you think that that isn't right to do? Or, I mean, how do you feel about what they're doing? Do you feel they're somehow defending your land? I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm interested in, what context you put that in when folks do that.
If we look at it as defending the land, then no. But if we look at the people who do these things, I don't really know if I should blame them or if I can call them heroes or anything like that, because they were been through a lot. And I don't think anyone can come and can just have a terrorist attack or something like this only because they just wanted to hurt anyone. And I'm against doing that because I don't think anyone should be dead because of something that, how do I say that? Well, he's innocent. He shouldn't be dying because of someone else just decided to bomb a building or something like this, or bomb a car. But if we look at the Palestinians who do these things, they live these things every day by the IOF. The IOF would just go to the West Bank. They would just attack them in their homes, attack them in their cars. They live way more difficult life than I do as a Palestinian citizen of Israel. I have more privileges than them.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really blame them because they live a really hard life. And they would see every Israeli or every Jew who's living in Israel as their enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I'm in a place that I can tell you if they're actually right or wrong.
So when missiles come from Gaza, do you ever have to go to a bomb shelter?
Personally, for me, no, I don't have to because I live in northern Palestine, and North Palestine or the missiles don't really reach here.
Not
Because
usually, but I know in 2014 they were all over the place.
yes, but not for me, not in the area that I live. The
Mm.
missiles don't reach. Sometimes they do reach, but
Yeah.
that's really rare.
Do you feel safe when you're around Jewish Israelis?
It's like it's really complicated. I don't really look as Arab as they say for them, that I don't really look Arab. And
Mm.
my accent in Hebrew and I have a really strong Hebrew, so
Mm.
they wouldn't notice that I am Arab. So if
Mm.
I don't say that I am Arab, they wouldn't notice that.
Mm.
I sometimes I do feel safe, sometimes I don't. It depends. I do have Jewish friends. Um, But when I am next to an Israeli police or next to someone who's from the military who's having a weapon with them, just them traveling, I don't really feel safe because they don't have, if they can, it's legal here in Israel for them to kill or murder someone if they don't feel safe about them, if they think that they would do anything for them.
Mhm.
So it's like I can feel safe in some places, in some places not, and it also depends on the time. If there's clashes between Israel and Gaza, then I wouldn't feel safe. being an Arab near to a lot of Israelis. But personally, it depends.
Have you encountered prejudice?
Well, the type of racism that I would face, yes, I kind of faced. Um, when I say I'm an Arab after speaking a lot of Arabic, a lot of Hebrew, and I suddenly spoke Arabic or say that I am an Arab,
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of stigmas about Arabs,
Mm-hmm.
about the way that we look, the way that we speak, and the way, oh, I didn't know that you're Arab. You're too nice for being an Arab. These are things that I heard. When I spoke about our house, I am in the student council. I was in the student council.
Yeah.
So when I spoke about my house being demolished, one of them told one of the people there, one of the Israeli people, he's an extremist. So he told me, well, we're gonna have a place here and you cannot, it's our land and you shouldn't be here. So this is a type of racism that we face. But for me, I don't really face a lot of racism like others do. I'm not a hijabi, as you can see. They can't tell if, and my Hebrew is really good, so they can tell if I'm Arab or not based on my look. So a lot of I do face racism, but not like a lot of racism because they can't really know if I'm Arab or not.
Do you believe Israel is an apartheid country?
Yes, I do.
Because
Because of a lot of things. Because it's of the war crimes that Israel did.
War crimes such as what?
Such as killing children, such as building an open prison for Gaza.
When you say it's an open prison, what do you, can you describe what you mean by that?
It is literally people, 2 million people are being trapped in a small place, and they don't have any exit for them to go anywhere. They are just trapped in the city of Gaza. They don't have clean water. For the most of their water is polluted, so they don't have clean source of water. Their education system is not good. Everything there, it's like you are being trapped in a big place with a lot of population, and you're just living there your whole life. You can't go outside of the city or any place else that you want. You are only trapped there. So it is technically an open prison. It's just it's a prison, but not in a building. It's a really big prison.
What do you think about settlers?
Oh my God. When I say racism, I do think about settlers first. Settlements are illegal. So settlers are illegal. I live in Arara. It's a small village. It's full with Arabs. Next to me, I live on the hill. The other half of the hill is a settlement. So they have a really big fence, an electric fence that's protecting the settlement.
Right.
Actually, I've been to one of the schools there. So I know a lot of people from them. The education there, it's really good. The rights that they have, they actually, most of the settlers have guns, they have weapons, so they can protect themselves if anything happens. So if they think that I am a trigger to them, they would just pull that weapon out and they would shoot. So I don't really feel safe when being near to a settlement or near to a settler. And I did say that settlements are illegal, So settlements, if we look at them in the West Bank, they are the main reason for conflict in West Banks and for clashes in the West Bank. So I am against settlements.
Have you ever participated in any protests or anything like that?
I don't really go to protests a lot. I did when I was younger, when my house was being demolished.
Hmm.
But I don't really go to things like that because we don't feel safe when we go there. If it was a peaceful protest, it will not be peaceful anymore because of the IOF, because they would decide just to kick us. We are just trying to say what we want. We are trying to get our rights. They won't let us. They would spray a polluted water at us, and a lot of they would tear gas. They would uh, they would throw gas bombs and stuff like that. They would arrest people that are protesting, even if that was a a peaceful protest that is organized with the Israeli police. So in order to be safe and to actually to go to college and stuff like that, I avoid going to protests and stuff like that. So I wouldn't get a criminal record if I get arrested or something like that.
So when you've gone, um, do you think that it was just the military or police, Israeli police, just attacking the protesters, or did you see protesters who were throwing rocks and stuff like that? What?
Well, it starts as a peaceful protest. Then there's something like the SWAT team that you have in America that we have here.
Hmm.
They would come, the Israeli um, occupation forces would also come, which is the Israeli military, and they would start to kick people. Then people
They would
would
start
start,
to kick people?
yeah, to kick people, to make them to make them angry and more furious. So people would then start to throw rocks. That what happens in every protest. And actually, my house where I live, I can see everything that happens at the protest. So if I don't go to the protest itself, I can see what happens. And a lot of people open live videos so that we can actually see what happened and not just what the news says.
Mm.
So that would happen every time. They would start to kick people, and then people would start to throw rocks at them in order to protect themselves.
You said you have Jewish friends? Do you have many Jewish friends or a couple?
Not a lot. I actually do have. I have from work. I do have friends that been with me in a peace organizations,
Mm,
um, and from the student council. And actually, one of my Jewish friends in May 2021,
mm.
when we would as Palestinians share about what happens, she decided to wear the kufiya and come to one of the protests. So
Oh, wow.
yes, because she believed in what was happening with us, and she got to see both of the sides. She got to
Hmm.
see her Israeli sides and the Palestinian side and what we live, um, and she chose her side. She chose the side to believe that what happened with the Palestinians and to fight with us because she believes in peace and
Mm.
um, and what we say being fair.
What do you think about other Arab countries?
They're actually bad
Because
of the government.
bad in what way?
They're corrupt. I don't really see them different as the Israeli government. They are really bad with their own people. They're murderers. A lot of them, all of the Arabian countries, their education systems, they're not good.
For the next interview, we spoke with Yara, another Palestinian citizen of Israel, and she is Christian. Welcome, Yara. Where do you live?
School. I live like in a small village in Jerusalem. I go to private school. It's like a Christian school. I live like in Beit Hanina. Before we usually go to West Bank, like we go several times a week because we want like to visit our grandparents, grandmother, and like aunts and all of them. It's really hard for them to come here because they need a permission, and like it's not easy to get the permission. So it's easier for us to go there because like I have the identity, Israeli identity, but like it's not that easy because sometimes at the checkpoints they stop us and they are asking us, oh, what were you doing? Can you like they check also the car? Can you open the door? Can you open like everything? So yeah, and sometimes like we wait for like 2 hours so we can pass like over the checkpoints because like there is a lot of traffic there.
And what religion are you?
Oh, I'm Christian. I'm Christian, but like I do respect all of the religions, other religions, and I really love to get know more about them. That's why I have also Muslims friends, so I don't have any problem, and I went to the mosque several times. But like about the Jewish, the Jewish religion, I didn't know that much. That's why when I came to America, like to San Diego, we went there, and like it was really interesting thing. I heard like things that I didn't know like before.
How do you feel about Israel? It's okay. I say just your honest feelings.
Yeah.
I asked to know really how you feel about Israel. It's interesting to hear your perspective. Don't be scared. I'm not.
Yeah, no. Okay, so Israel
Say
as
how
a
you feel.
country, like, yeah, if I want to talk like as a country, Israel, it's really a good country, and it gives their own like people their rights, like enough rights for the Israelis and Jewish people. But like if I want to like from my own perspective, like as a Palestinian living here, Israel, I find it like Israel, like it's a country that I don't think it gives like the full rights for all of us, like the Palestinian, include the Palestinians. For
Right.
Jewish, maybe they do, but like for us as a Palestinian, no, I don't think they give us the full rights, and especially for the West Bank. So I don't find like Israel is a fair country. Like they aren't fair at all. And I think the thing that really I don't like it at all, that when they like show at the social media they are the perfect country and they don't do anything and these things, I don't really like it because the truth isn't like this. And when I talk to this thing in America, in the USA, in San Diego, they didn't actually know, like the Americans, like they didn't actually know, about the Palestinians' life. They thought like all of the social media were like true and all of the news are true, and I was like, no. So that was a really good thing, like to go there and to really tell them about our truth, like how we actually do live.
Can you tell me?
Sometimes in Israel, we do face some racism. So because yes,
have you
so personally, yes, but like I can't say a lot. Like I can say like rarely sometimes because I'm like not like I'm young and I'm still like a kid. I can say a teenager. So they don't usually like do have like so many like racism something, but like I can say yes in general because every time like one time I heard the story from a girl a Palestinian girl, and she was going to the mall, okay, to shop and like these things, and then when the security asked her, the first thing asked her, are you Palestinian or Israeli? So she told him, "What's the difference if I say I'm a Palestinian or Israel?" And he told her, he told her, if you are a Palestinian, I will check the car and I will ask for your identity." So that was really like not a good thing. Like, why are you doing this? So I really don't like this thing.
You don't know why?
Because of the conflict between us, because there was like some because there was like some wars between us at that time. That's why they were really scared about from us, like, so we were like, if we will do something to them, but like we won't. So that's why.
But they don't know who is who, right?
Yes.
So, I
Yes.
mean, do you understand that why? I mean, that do you agree that there is a possibility that they don't know who is a terrorist and who isn't, and why they would check?
Sometimes I do, but like sometimes I think it's like a lot of process to do. Like it's awful
Oh,
for us.
sure.
Like imagine with your family at the checkpoints. One time that happened to me personally. We were going to get my sister from the airport because she was like she came here for
Yeah.
vacation.
Yeah.
So we were in the West Bank in our grandparents' house. So we like. We went to the checkpoints, and when we went to the checkpoints, they let us out of the car, and they check us personally.
Mhm.
And after personally, they also check the car.
Mhm.
And we also talk to them and tell them, "Oh, my sister is waiting for us there, and she's alone there in the airport." And they didn't care, actually. They were like, "Okay, you can wait here and don't move, don't do anything." So it was really awful for us, and especially for like me as a kid, seeing like all of the
Sure.
soldiers and like with their
Scary.
guns, and
Yeah.
yes, it is scary.
Yeah.
So
I know
that's why
the soldiers with their guns scare me, and I'm not doing.
yeah.
I mean, they're theoretically not going to hurt me, but it's very intimidating they carry their machine guns like purses, it's very casual to them, but not to me either.
Yes.
It's very scary.
Yeah. And every time,
But
also in the mall, they carry it with them. So
all over the place. I mean, they're all over
yes.
the place. But I would imagine it's even more intimidating for you. But given the situation, what would you do if you had Israelis coming in and doing suicide bombs and stabbings and all that? Wouldn't you try to protect yourself by checking people?
Yes, for sure, I'll try my best. But like, if I want to say as a Palestinian from Palestinian side, we have to, because we don't have like the same power as Israel has. Like we don't have any guns, we don't have any missiles. We only have our rockets. So that's why it's like we have to check them and like to protect ourselves from them.
It's
Like it's a
interesting.
normal thing, not normal thing, but like
Yeah, none of this is normal. Ugh.
yes, I know, but like I don't find like it's a conflict not between two same like power. I think like the conflict should be fair, so they can call it a conflict. That's why I don't find it like a normal conflict or like a fair conflict, because Israel has many power, like many power, like they have a gun, they have guns, they have missiles, they have everything they
Yeah.
want. And also the US do like also encourage them, not encourage them, they do also help them, I can say. But like in Palestine, like as a Palestinian, I don't find this thing. Sometimes like in the past, I don't know if you know, but like we were like as Arab countries together, but like when the war started and this stuff happens, we didn't we didn't have the ability to stay together as this. But like we try our best to stay like this, so we can like have like fair conflict between us.
What do you think about like when the Palestinians from Gaza send missiles into Israel?
Yes. Actually, I don't think that like Gaza, they usually like the Israelis, like not usually, like yes, it's usually the Israel start first with the bomb and
Really?
with the missile. Yes, sometimes they do, and
Wow.
some. Oh,
Well, that's an
you didn't know
interesting
that?
perspective. Oh, what we believe that 98% of the time the
Yeah,
Palestinians
it's
send the
wrong.
missiles.
Yeah, that's a really
Well,
normal thing, like to hear from you. So I don't have
mhm.
any problem because I'm not saying that they always they start. I'm not saying this. I say like usually they do start them, but like sometimes like in a, like rarely I can no, not really okay. Rarely I can say we not we like Gaza send missiles, and I don't think they have the right to do this. Because also there are innocent people that maybe they do believe that Palestine like have to be free, has to be free. So sometimes we kill these people, not these people. Also, we kill like a normal person that he doesn't have any problem with us or like have any problem with the conflict. So sometimes I think like people like are dying, like innocent people are dying. So that's not fair.
Civilians.
Also for us and also for them. Yes.
For the final Palestinian interview, we spoke with Dahlia, a Palestinian American. It was interesting to hear what she thought about both Israeli Jews and Palestinians after attending Hands of Peace. Do you see Israelis or Jews differently than you did before?
I think I do because I'd never met one before, so I kind of didn't really know like what to kind of, expect. I didn't expect the Israeli people to be so very, very open-minded, I would say. I expected them to kind of be defensive, just kind of, natural instinct. If someone is criticizing your nation, your state, I expected a lot of them to be very on the defense all the time, when in reality, like, that's not true. The Israeli participants had a lot of sympathy and had a lot of kind of humanity for the Palestinian participants. So I was really, I don't know, I think that was a really good interaction.
But it also could be those who are willing to come to something like this think that way. But just like you can think however you think, I'm sure everyone's different. So I'm sure there's probably some very far right Israelis. There's no way would they come to such a camp or believe openly. So people are people. People people believe really the way they believe, and everyone's different. Do you see other Palestinians differently?
Yes, also yes. I think that something about, if we're just kind of comparing the Palestinians versus Israelis, I felt that the Palestinians, they felt like they had something to prove, or they felt like they had to always defend themselves. For example, if someone were to bring up a rocket or a missile or a suicide killing, I felt like there was always a Palestinian in the room who felt the need to say, oh, maybe it's because of this, or maybe they had some sort of experience beforehand that triggered them to do something. And so that's kind of something where we talked about, where we kind of learned that like you should not have to feel like you have to answer for every other Palestinian, because like you said, like everyone's going to think differently on their own at the end of the day.
Cool. Before our conclusion, I'd like to play two short clips of speeches from two hands who attended Hands of Peace this past summer. The first is an American Jewish participant, and the second is a Palestinian Christian. These teens summed up their experiences that gave me, and I hope you will agree, a profound sense of hope for the results that interacting with one another can bring. Here's to the promise that there can and will be peace in the future.
Hi, my name is Annie, and I'm from Los Angeles. I'm the daughter of two immigrants. My dad is from Israel, and my mom is from Ukraine. My family is Jewish, but I don't consider myself to be a very religious person. Yet, being Jewish is an important aspect of my life and my history, which is why I am so interested in discussing issues related to Judaism. As I previously mentioned, my dad is Israeli. Up until last summer, I had never visited Israel and did not feel a strong connection to the land and its people. However, after exploring Israel on a month-long program for high schoolers, I realized how important Israel is to me as a Jew. I also realized that Israel plays a huge role in many other people's lives, which is why I decided to apply to Hands of Peace in hopes that I could learn more about the significance of the land to other people. I'm here because I believe that the Jewish people have the right to live on the land of Israel. I recognize that there are many issues surrounding the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and most importantly, I believe that the only way to better understand one another is through dialogue that promotes respect, understanding, and peace. Even in the United States, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict affects my life. When the May 2021 clash between Israel and Hamas occurred, I experienced rising levels of anti-Semitism in my community. I saw post after post, story after story on Instagram, spreading misinformation about the conflict on both sides. I heard my classmates discussing the conflict with no other knowledge than what they read on an Instagram infographic. I saw swastikas spray painted onto synagogues and watched the news in terror as LA's largest synagogue became the place of a hate crime and the death of several Jews. I realized that if I wanted to be able to have serious discussions about the conflict, I would have to learn more about each side. This realization is what inspired me to join Hands of Peace. Going into the program, I hope to share my point of view as a Jewish American who also happens to be half Israeli, and why I believe Israel is so essential to the Jewish people. Since then, I have met Jewish Israelis, Palestinian citizens of Israel, Americans, and Palestinians from the West Bank, who, like me, all have an opinion on the conflict. They have taught me that this issue is far more complex than facts and figures. There are real people who live real lives that are affected by living in a war-torn area. They have told me heart-wrenching personal stories about how the conflict affects their daily lives. They have also made me realize that although we may have differing opinions inside the dialogue room, that does not mean that we cannot still be friends. The most special moment of the program to me thus far occurred during the ropes course that we all completed a few days ago. We were all put into groups of about 7 to 8 people from each delegation and told to rely on each other to get to the end of the ropes course, which I might add was at least 30 feet above the ground. There was a moment when everyone in my group was holding onto each other to make it across 4 thin, tight rope-like wires, when I realized that a Jewish Israeli was holding the hand of a Palestinian, who was holding the hand of a Jewish American, who was holding the hand of a Palestinian American, who was holding the hand of a Palestinian citizen of Israel. I stood there for a moment, shaking from my fear of heights, but feeling so much joy and gratefulness that we have the opportunity to build these connections when so often they are discouraged and frowned upon simply because we come from different places with different ideologies. I think it's remarkable that we have the space to really get to know each other as people, not as sides of a conflict, and even become friends. This moment taught me that at the end of the day, we're all human, and this is something we have in common, despite all of the things we may not. What has surprised me the most during my time at Hands of Peace is how welcoming and loving this community is. I feel so safe and understood here, and I want to say thank you to my fellow participants, my facilitators, my chaperones, the program directors, my host family, and the entire Hands of Peace community for creating a space where we can all feel comfortable being ourselves. I also want to thank Christ Presbyterian Church for welcoming us into your community and showing me how a different faith than my own practices their beliefs. I feel so lucky to be here with all of you, and I'm excited to continue the program, learn more, and get to know everyone better.
I'm Rana. I'm a Palestinian Christian from Holy Land, living in Haifa. When one of my teachers happened to mention Hands of Peace, I immediately knew that I wanted to be a part of it, because I believe in the power of youth. We are tomorrow's leaders. It is up to us to form the bridge between two nations which have been taught to mistrust one another. We, the youth, are seeds of hope and love. In order for these seeds to grow and be prosperous, they must be watered. Watered by hearing each other and approach one another with loving attitude. And this is what Hands of Peace does. I've been a participant in this program for 2 weeks now. I've heard personal stories from each side and was able to see the human and vulnerability in each side. I was able to transcend the inherent sense of prejudice we humans have towards one another. Today, we are all united under the roof of this holy place and blessed by its Holy Spirit. First of all, I would love to thank Father Greg and all the church staff for welcoming us, the Hands of Peace participants, in this service. We are honored to be here. I am glad to witness this wonderful moment, where teenagers from different sides of the world and different religions are sitting here for the sake of spreading love, peace, equality, and faith. As Jesus Christ said, "Love one another as I have loved you. أحبوا بعضكم بعضا كما أحببتكم أنا." Jesus' love for us humans is immeasurable, unconditional, and limitless. At the time where we live in a world where there's so much hate, we must remember these words: to spread love instead of hate, to spread peace instead of war, to spread tolerance instead of revenge, to love one another, unconditional love, exactly as Jesus loved us. May God bless you all.
This brings our special Season 4 with Hands of Peace to a close. We've seen the dramatic impact of bringing Israelis and Palestinians together to listen and speak with each other, and its effect in changing opinions and realizations about each other brings us hope. We hope you've enjoyed this series. Next week, during our Peace with Penny episode, we have the pleasure of speaking with Mario Shechtman, the founder of Challenge, an Israeli NGO formed in 2010 to promote conflict transformation within both the Israeli and Palestinian arenas. Conflict transformation is an innovative approach that helps to identify the different layers in the dynamic of a conflict and provides practical tools to reduce the suffering through creativity, empathy, and nonviolence. We hope you will join us, and for now, we hope that everyone someday will live in peace, shalom, and salam.